While Minneapolis burns with anti-ICE riots, Bill O'Reilly just exposed something the mainstream media won't touch. A billionaire communist living in luxury in Shanghai is secretly funding the chaos on American streets. The money trail leads right to Beijing. And the organizations receiving those millions, they've got one goal: destroy our immigration enforcement from within. Now, this is not just about Minneapolis anymore. If foreign adversaries can fund domestic terrorism through shell organizations, every American city becomes a target. Your local ICE office, your federal courthouse, your neighborhood could be next. The PSL and Democrat Socialists, they aren't grassroots movements. They're foreign-funded operations designed to cripple our sovereignty. When Alex Preddy attacked that ICE vehicle, he wasn't acting alone. He was a foot soldier in China's war against American law enforcement. Tim Walz and Jacob Frey, they know this is organized and they let it happen anyway. It's not incompetence, that's complicity with foreign interference. And you know what America needs right now? People who aren't afraid to stand up and be counted. You ever see something and instantly know it's going to turn heads? That's exactly what happened when I saw these Trump never surrender gold sneakers. Now, these aren't subtle, and they're not supposed to be. Gold finish, red, white, and blue details. Never surrender right on the shoe. You put these on, you're making a statement. So while communists are funded by China and they're trying to destroy our country from within, real patriots need to show where they stand. And these shoes say you're not backing down, you're not surrendering, and you're not apologizing for loving America. In a world of foreign-funded chaos, sometimes the boldest move is simply refusing to surrender your values. Because when billionaire communists are funding riots in our streets, patriots need to stand up and be seen. Hit the link in the description. But here's what gets me pissed. Neville Roy Singham isn't hiding. He's living openly in Shanghai, working directly with Beijing. And the FBI knows about him. Yet somehow millions keep flowing to these radical groups. The Party for Socialism and Liberation had professional printed signs ready to go. They had U-Hauls full of protest materials. This level of organization does not happen overnight. It takes serious money and coordination. Now let's take a look at what Anna Paulina Luna just posted. The anti-ICE uprising in Minneapolis and other blue cities is highly organized, and yes, billionaires like Neville Singham are funding these violent demonstrations. Although Congress has issued subpoenas for Singham, he's been quietly sneaking in and out of the country. How do you quietly sneak in and out of the United States? I don't know. Let's find out.
Congresswoman, I know you guys are investigating some of the funding behind this stuff, and I know Kash Patel is. What can you tell us?
Look, recently I actually had made the motion to send a subpoena. It was passed bipartisan from House Oversight for Neville Singham for his refusal to come before Congress and accept receipt of our invitation to talk about the funding that he's been launching against the American people that are largely contributing to some of these violent protests. But to be clear, Jesse, this is only benefiting China. Neville Singham has been funding these communist and socialist groups. He's a self-proclaimed Leninist and Marxist, and he again is refusing to come into the United States. We've even sent myself and Chairman Comer a letter to the Treasury Department asking them to freeze his assets, of which we will be following up when we get back to Washington. And I also heard, Jesse, that even though we are trying to serve him in an effort to bring him into Congress to testify, that he's been quietly sneaking in and out of this country. And so, yes, if you're looking for who's funding these, it is him, and the Treasury Department does have the authority to freeze his assets.
All right. So when he flies into the country and then flies back to Beijing, we don't have any notice, the CIA doesn't have, or the DOJ doesn't have any notice what flight he's on, if it's private, what airport he's landing at. We can't serve him when he lands?
I think that they could get that information, but that would require them to open up a criminal investigation. But again, I think that they have grounds to do so. I've also sent letters to the Department of Justice to try to hit him with a FARA violation because he's not a registered foreign agent for China. But again, that would require a criminal aspect. But either which way, he's not receiving, and he will not, in my opinion, accept receipt of the subpoena, which means we'll be able to hold him in contempt of Congress. So that would then initiate the criminal proceedings.
Are you even allowed to frolic around China with pink shirts like that?
I think if you are shilling on behalf of the Communist Chinese Party, probably.
That's true. It's definitely a fashion violation, that's for sure. Anna Paulina, thank you so much as always. We appreciate it. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Jesse.
The explosive allegation about foreign funding sets up the perfect storm, but wait until you see how the media is covering it up. Here is Laura Loomer. Signalgate 2.0 is here, and the media is pretending not to notice. The fake news tried to destroy the Trump administration over Michael Waltz's signal screw-up, yet they are completely silent about the domestic terror cell operating in Minnesota. Here is Laura Loomer.
An even bigger Signalgate scandal has now erupted over the weekend. So I'm sure some of you have seen it. If you haven't, boy, are you in for a treat. It's going to be a real test to see whether the media has any integrity at all. I mean, we already know that the media is severely skewed, partisan, left-wing, but it's going to be really interesting to see, given their attentiveness to signal, right? And their obsession with signal. We saw again what happened in the aftermath of the original Signalgate with Michael Waltz. They acted like it was, the biggest scandal in the world. And yeah, it was definitely a sign of incompetence, and he lost his job over it. But when you look at like the level of scandal or the level of pain or the level of harm inflicted by a scandal, or you look at the motives behind the people involved in this scandal, with the original Signalgate several months ago in the very beginning of President Trump's second term, it's not like there was a malicious intent per se. I mean, some people think that the reporter was added on purpose, and that's, up for debate. Some people think that it was intentionally done to embarrass the president, and some people think that it was just an accident, right? But nobody really got hurt, right, when we look back at Signalgate. But over the weekend, there's a independent journalist who I've met personally by the name of Cam Higbee, who broke another Signalgate story. He says, Minneapolis signal infiltrated. I have infiltrated organizational signal groups all around Minneapolis with the sole intention of tracking down federal agents and impeding and assaulting and obstructing them. Buckle up, all will be revealed. Each area of the city has a signal or several signals. Let's start with a screen recording of all members of the South Side group to start. So Cam ends up recording this signal chat, and there's like tons of these code names and usernames inside the signal chat. And of course, this has been effective because it's been crowdsourced. What do I mean by that? Well, the activism itself and the obstruction has been crowdsourced in the sense that you have these organizers in Minneapolis who are crowdsourcing protesters, and they are organizing inside their chat rooms, but also too the exposés of these signal group chats that have been created by these radical left Democrats in Minnesota has also been crowdsourced. And so what Cam did is he screen recorded all of these names, and now people on the internet, armchair detectives, independent journalists, just anybody in general, they are using this open source intelligence to try to find out who these people are in the signal chats. And so it's actually been really embarrassing because we found out through this crowdsourced investigation that a lot of people who work under Governor Tim Walz, elected officials, including the lieutenant governor of Minnesota, are members of the signal chat, which is quite damning because, they've been profusely denying any involvement with the protests. They've been stoking tensions. They've been, speaking out, condemning ICE agents, talking about how ICE agents are like Hitler. Oh, ICE agents are like Nazis. And yet we find out through this investigation, and it's not even complete because there's tons of names. I mean, apparently there's like thousands of names because there's people all across the state of Minnesota obstructing, and God only knows if there's other chats like this that exist in other states as well. But what's really shocking about this is that people are still, just from several moments ago when I checked my phone, there's still new information about elected officials getting posted and exposed once people identify their usernames and they're realizing, wow, this person is an elected official. This person works with the governor. This person works, or they're a taxpayer-funded employee in the state of Minnesota. And
yeah, we covered that in a previous report, and it's going viral. While Loomer exposes media bias, Real story is emerging from ground zero, and the contrast could not be starker. Texas single-handedly delivering 25% of all daily ICE arrests nationwide. Zero riots, zero chaos, just straight-up cooperation. Red states showing the rest of the country how it's done.
First, the date of a new era of cooperation with federal immigration authorities. It has become mandatory in the Lone Star State. Under provisions of Senate Bill 8, sheriff's offices in every Texas county must allow trained deputies to determine whether inmates are living here illegally. Panel, the measure provides state dollars to fund the local officers involved with immigration status evaluation. All right, sheriffs have until December 31st to sign a formal agreement with the feds or face legal action from the Texas Attorney General.
Texas leading the way and proving it can be done peacefully, but Minneapolis is heading towards something much more dangerous. Curtis Haug, ABC's Trevor Ault, predicts more Minneapolis protesters will start bringing guns to their confrontations with CBP and ICE, possible use against the agents, claiming fear for their safety.
I mean, anger is absolutely the main emotion that we are seeing, George. They feel like they have a right to continue pushing back, and they feel like it is working. But especially they're upset because they feel like ICE has been everywhere. When I got to town, my team who had already been here said, don't rent a dark SUV. People will assume you are a federal agent because they're all over the place, and people will not be happy. You, of course, also have the immigrant communities. They are very afraid. There are people who haven't left their homes in weeks. And maybe, George, the most dominant emotion is dread. As long as the raids continue, the protests continue, and another shooting could happen at any moment. And especially after Alex Preddy's shooting, more demonstrators could potentially bring their own weapons under the belief they have to be prepared to defend themselves from federal agents who could shoot them. It is a very dangerous recipe. People are scared, but they're also resolute that they have to fight back.
They have to fight back, really? ABC report isn't just covering the story. He's predicting armed confrontation, and local officials know exactly what needs to happen. Here's Tricia Ohio on local police arresting violent rioters outside the Minneapolis hotel where ICE agents were staying.
Governor Walz and President Trump had what looked like a very productive conversation where there was going to be more state and local cooperation from Minnesota officials. And we actually saw that play it out on the ground when there was rioters who were destroying a hotel in Minneapolis where they suspected our ICE and CBP officers were staying. And in that incident, state and local law enforcement were actually permitted to step in and made arrests of those rioters. That's what we're asking for. That's what this comes down to, Stuart, is that we want that state and local cooperation to allow us to take criminal illegal aliens from the jails once they've served time, and so they're not re-let out back into Minnesota, back into the communities to re-perpetuate their crimes. And also, we're asking, and President Trump is asking for backup for our law enforcement when they are being assaulted or obstructed or other federal crimes against them.
So local cooperation is the solution, but Trump's allies are already mobilizing massive support for federal enforcement. Bill Mitchell reports that Trump just got massive backup from Scott Jennings, torching the left's mob mentality. Scott Jennings is always a favorite here at the Next News Network when he sits in the den of snakes at CNN.
I would just caution all these people. You cannot let an angry mob nullify federal law in a jurisdiction. If they do that,
you mean the American people? Is that what the angry mob is? The American people?
These people in Minneapolis are an angry mob, whether you like it or not. They don't like the fact that the president is enforcing long-standing federal immigration law.
Does that mean they should be shot on the street, Scott?
No,
that's the question that we're talking about, right?
The debate is about what the president's going to do next. And if you were to let them win and you were to be run out of town, what do you think would happen in L.A., Chicago, New York, all over the country?
So you don't think what happened to Alex Preddy was problematic? I mean,
do I think it's problematic? Of course it's problematic.
Okay, was it wrong?
Anytime someone dies, it's problematic. But what they're asking for is for federal law enforcement to be sent out of town.
Is it wrong?
And that no federal laws be enforced.
Wrong? Was what happened to Alex Preddy on the street wrong?
Was it wrong?
Was it wrong?
I'm waiting for an investigation, which I fully support. I don't know what the circumstances were.
If
I
it
don't
was a
like
Democratic president in the White House, would you be able
Would
to
I
say
want an
it was
investigation?
wrong?
Would I want an Of course I would. I don't like that people have died. I don't like this chaos. But I also don't like the idea that we're just going to say, well, in this one little territory, we're not going to enforce federal laws anymore. That doesn't strike me as a good idea for the president right now. So he's got a tricky situation. It's very complex, but being run out of town by an angry mob to me is not an option.
Political backing is crucial, but the evidence keeps mounting that this is not a grassroots resistance. Brandon Straka. Signs point to organized action in Minneapolis' far-left groups, including the PSL, are tied to the unrest and its financing drawing attention. Here is Frontline's Turning Point with some video.
Look at this. Here goes a group of professional activists renting a U-Haul, getting signs out of their trucks. This is not organic. These are the same printed signs. And now they're heading to the federal courthouse.
What do we want? When do we want it?
Do you know who's organizing this?
The PSL, Party for Socialism and
Liberation. Oh, okay.
Do you want to sign?
I'm just going to observe. Thank you, though.
Tuck in, meet your neighbors, because again, hey, remember, we're not doing this by ourselves, right?
Which group is organizing this?
Party for Socialism and Liberation. We've been out here for a few years.
How do you join? Like, if you want to also donate?
It's pretty easy. You can look it up, pslweb.org.
Got it. Is there like a Minnesota or Minneapolis chapter?
Twin Cities.
Twin Cities. So, okay. So people can simply just donate and goes to signs and whatever out here to protest. Okay.
If we don't get it, if we don't get it.
Oh, wow. How much more evidence do you need, guys? The PSL connection is just the tip of the iceberg. Now we're going to get the real money trail. Bill O'Reilly raising awareness for the ICE riots are being paid for by a billionaire living in China. China. Here's
the most important part of this whole thing, unreported, okay? There is a man in Shanghai, China, an American citizen. His name is Neville Roy Singham. He works with the Beijing government. He is funneling millions of dollars into the United States of America through 501s like Party for Socialism and Liberation, Democratic Socialists of America, Minnesota Immigration Rights Action Committee. There he is, okay? Connecticut-born, 71 years old, billionaire tech guy. He is funneling money here to these radical organizations who are then agitating professional people, communists mostly, because Singham's a communist, all right, to go in and foster rebellion. You heard that story reported? That is absolutely true. The man has been investigated by the FBI in the past, this Singham character, okay? This isn't some organic thing. This is a foreign power, Beijing, using this American citizen who lives openly in Shanghai in luxury, knowing that this man is funneling tens of millions, probably more, into this country to try to destroy the government. What the deuce is that? Where are you, New York Times? All right? That's the second part of the story. There's a local federal story, and there's the international story. And I've had it. You don't like what I'm saying? Blank you, because I'm telling you the truth.
Bill O'Reilly bringing the fire. O'Reilly dropping the China bombshell, but there's one more devastating piece of evidence that ties it all together. If Tim Walz and Jacob Frey allow Alex Petty to be arrested, he'd be alive today. New video shows him attacking ICE agents' car a week before he was killed. That video just dropping today. So think about this. A foreign power successfully weaponized American tax-exempt organizations to fund domestic terrorism. They turned our own 501c3 system against us. While we were worried about Russian Facebook ads, China was directly funding street violence through communist front groups. The revolution isn't coming. It's already here, and it's being paid for with Chinese money. The evidence is undeniable. Chinese money flowing to communist organizations who fund anti-ICE riots turned deadly. Alex Preddy died because Minnesota's leadership chose foreign-funded chaos over American law and order. When billionaire communists can operate terror networks through our tax system while living in luxury in Shanghai, we're not dealing with protests anymore. We're dealing with warfare. The question isn't whether this is happening. The question is what we do about it. Are you ready to admit that America is under attack by foreign terrorists? Let me know in the comments, and check out the next News Merch Shop.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.